Have you ever stopped to think about your bed? Right now, you're probably sitting on a chair, lying on a mattress, or relaxing on a couch. At the end of the day, you'll climb into a soft bed with pillows, blankets, and a roof over your head. It feels completely normal. But for almost all of human history, none of those things existed. No beds, no mattresses, no pillows, no bedrooms. So how did our ancestors survive cold nights, dangerous predators, and endless discomfort? And perhaps more surprisingly, did they actually sleep worse than we do today? The answer is far more fascinating than you might imagine. If you picture early humans sleeping directly on hard, freezing ground every night, you're not alone. That's the image most of us grow up with. But archaeology paints a very different story. Long before the invention of beds, humans were already becoming surprisingly clever about sleep. One of the oldest known examples comes from South Africa, where archaeologists discovered carefully prepared sleeping areas dating back nearly 200,000 years. These weren't random patches of dirt. People intentionally gathered layers of grass and reeds to create soft sleeping surfaces. Over time, the bottom layers compressed into something remarkably similar to a primitive mattress. Even more interesting, many of these plants naturally repelled insects. Without understanding chemistry, our ancestors had learned through experience which plants kept biting insects away. In other words, they weren't just making beds. They were designing them. But comfort wasn't their biggest concern. Safety was. For most of human history, nighttime was incredibly dangerous. When darkness arrived, lions, hyenas, wolves, giant cats, and countless other predators became active. Humans couldn't outrun most of them. They couldn't see well in the dark, and they certainly couldn't lock a bedroom door. So sleeping wasn't simply resting. It was an act of survival. Groups often slept close together around fires. The fire produced warmth, but it also created light, smoke, and crackling sounds that discouraged many predators from approaching. Researchers believe different members of the group may have naturally awakened throughout the night, creating an accidental watch system where someone was almost always alert. Modern hunter-gatherer societies still show similar sleeping patterns today. Instead of everyone sleeping 8 uninterrupted hours, people wake briefly, tend the fire, check their surroundings, and fall asleep again. It may not have been perfect sleep, but it kept everyone alive. Location mattered just as much. Our ancestors rarely slept wherever they happened to be. They searched for places that offered natural protection. Rock shelters, caves, dense vegetation, elevated ground with clear views. Sometimes they even built simple windbreaks using branches and animal hides. Sleeping high above valley floors reduced exposure to flooding, cold air, and surprise attacks. Choosing where to sleep became one of the most important decisions of the day. A bad campsite could mean death. A good one could mean another sunrise.
Then came one of humanity's greatest discoveries: fire. Most people think fire was mainly about cooking, but it completely transformed sleep. A fire extended the day. It provided warmth during freezing nights. It frightened away many predators. It dried damp bedding. It allowed people to gather, tell stories, teach children, and strengthen social bonds before falling asleep. In many ways, fire created humanity's first living room. Sleep became safer not because humans changed, but because the environment around them did. As humans spread into colder climates across Europe and Asia, sleeping became even more challenging. Snow, ice, freezing winds. Our ancestors adapted once again. Animal skins became blankets. Fur became insulation. Bones and wood formed simple raised platforms to keep sleeping surfaces away from frozen ground. These weren't luxurious beds, but every small improvement conserved body heat. And in freezing temperatures, conserving heat often meant surviving until morning. Eventually, permanent villages appeared, then houses, then furniture. Ancient Egyptians built raised wooden beds to stay above insects and dust. Romans developed woven sleeping platforms. Centuries later came feather mattresses, cotton stuffing, metal springs, memory foam, and everything we know today. The modern bed wasn't invented overnight. It evolved through thousands of tiny improvements made by generations of people solving the same problem. How can we sleep more safely and more comfortably than we did yesterday? But perhaps the biggest surprise isn't where humans slept. It's how they slept. Modern society treats 8 uninterrupted hours as the ideal, yet researchers studying traditional hunter-gatherer communities often find something different. People fall asleep shortly after sunset, wake naturally during the night, talk quietly, check the fire, then drift back to sleep. This pattern, sometimes called segmented sleep, may have been completely normal for most of human history. If that's true, then the way many of us worry about waking up at night may actually be a very modern concern. Our ancestors weren't chasing perfect sleep. They were simply trying to survive until dawn. So tonight, when you pull a blanket over yourself, rest your head on a pillow and sink into a comfortable mattress. Remember this. Your bed isn't just another piece of furniture. It's the result of nearly 200,000 years of human innovation. Every blanket, pillow, mattress, and bedroom represents thousands of generations learning, adapting, experimenting, and surviving. Long before luxury, before furniture, before houses, humans had already discovered something extraordinary. Good sleep wasn't about comfort alone. It was about community, preparation, ingenuity, and the remarkable ability of our species to adapt to almost any environment on Earth. Perhaps that's the real story behind the bed you sleep in every single night.